Are you looking for some awesome fragrances this summer, but you don't want to spend too much money? These are my top 10 affordable summer fragrances, so let's go for it. I've already gone through 10 of my favorite designer summer fragrances, 10 of my more high-end ones, but now I want to talk about 10 affordable fragrances, or something we like to call cheapies in the fragrance community. I don't mean cheap fragrances as in crap fragrances. They're all pretty good in their own way, but what they're amazing at is the value. They're all very, very excellent value. And we all have a different level of what cheap is price-wise. So for the sake of this video, you can find any of these fragrances on websites like fragrancebuy.ca for $50 Canadian or under. So starting at number 10 on this summer list is Bulgari Aqua Marine. Now this is a pretty incredible fragrance to start with, because it wasn't always a cheapie. Bulgari is a pretty high level designer fragrance house in my personal opinion. And they make some excellent, excellent fragrances, especially in the Aqua line itself, whether it's the original, Atlantique, which is one of my personal favorites, and Amara. Currently, Marine is one of the cheapest in the entire line, and it's probably the best choice for the summer because it has a lot of the original's character, but it has an added sea salt accord, which really makes it wonderful in the summertime. It's extremely aquatic, extremely natural smelling, even though you don't really have a water essential oil. Definitely evocative of seawater, sea salt, the ocean, sailing on a boat. Scent-wise, it's definitely one of the better ones on this list. Not necessarily for everyone because of the saltiness, but it's a little bit harder to find it under that $50 threshold. You sometimes have to wait for a price drop, but at the time of this recording, it's under 50 bucks on Fragrance Buy, so check it out if you haven't. My number 9 cheapie is definitely a cheapie. It's by Calvin Klein, and it's CK2. CK2 is a fragrance that is unisex. It's not the most masculine fragrance on the planet. It's also not the most natural smelling fragrance. It has a lot of notes that you wouldn't necessarily put in a cologne. It kind of smells like newspaper a little bit, kind of like a wet rock type of feel. And there also is a bit of a floral quality to it. So perhaps a bit feminine leaning, but the reason I put it on this list is because of that violet leaf and a little bit of citrus as well. This one brings something new to the table, and it's one of the only fragrances on this list that I would recommend to women as much as I would to men. Give it a try, test it out at your local drugstore because it probably will be there. And it just offers something a little bit fresh and new, not just citrus, not just aquatics. And as mentioned before, it really is a cheapie. Next up on this list, we have Artisan Pure by John Varvatos. A fragrance that comes from a house that is notable for its excellent smelling fragrances, but they don't always perform all that well. And depending on who you ask, it is a pretty high quality designer release. Some people will say it doesn't smell natural, others say it does. I think it leans more towards the natural side of things. I really think the fragrance itself is well put together. It has that soapy quality which can make it come across as being synthetic, but it still smells really good, really fresh, and really clean. On the performance side of things, yeah, not the best performer, especially on me, but because it's John Varvatos, because it's a summer fragrance, I didn't really expect it to do all that well to begin with. And the 3 to 5 hours of respectable performance, it's good enough for me. And just like Bulgari Aquamarine, you will have to wait for the price to come down, but a tester is under $50 right now, so it's definitely eligible for this list. And I encourage you to check it out if you're looking for a bit of a green summer fragrance with a pretty cool bottle design. Just saying. Next up at number 7, we have the cheapest fragrance on this list, 4711 by Mohr & Wirtz. Essentially what you're getting with this one is a Tom Ford fragrance at maybe 5% of the cost. You can probably get over a liter for $20. Not even kidding. Very, very classic eau de cologne fragrance that largely uses neroli and a bit of bergamot. If you've been to Sephora and you've tried out Neroli Portofino by Tom Ford, you'll have a pretty good idea of how Mohr & Wirtz's 4711 smells. Now, being an eau de cologne, it really is a low oil percentage, which means the performance is pretty dismal, pretty abysmal. But here's the thing, you're gonna have so much of it that you can reapply every hour if you want to. You can decant some in a little sample vial and bring that around with you. You can spray your clothes all you want, and that'll help with the performance as well. And let's be honest, if you've smelled Neroli Portofino and you've tried it on, you'll know that it doesn't perform well either. And it's way more expensive. You're gonna be spending well over $100 just for a little 50 ml bottle. 4711 makes the list because it's really a fragrance that you can just afford to have. Even if you don't feel like wearing it yourself, you can use it as a very nice Tom Ford-esque air freshener. For that small amount of money, you might as well YOLO. Hashtag YOYOLU. You only YOLO once, or twice, or 3 times, or you just keep YOLOing. Next up, we have Issey Miyake's L'Odyssée pour Homme Summer Edition. The version that I happen to have is the 2016 version, and it's said to have a heightened kiwi note. Just get any of the summer versions. The L'Odyssée DNA is amazing year-round. The yuzu in the original can be pretty sharp and heavy-handed, especially when it gets extremely hot outside. But what the summer one does is it tones down the sour notes, makes it a little bit more pleasant, lighter, a little bit sweeter as well, and fruitier. So it tends to be amazing when it really heats up outside. Issey Miyake tends to release a new version of this summer flanker every year in different bottles, but really the scent is pretty identical with each year. There is also L'Odyssée Eau Fraîche, which is a little bit different, but I always tend to favor L'Odyssée Summer Edition. If you're liking the video so far, you can show me by liking the like button. And the way you do that is you just click it, you know? And if you click the subscribe button too, that also subscribes you to my channel, which I do appreciate too. Number 5 on this list is by Armaf, and it's Très Nuit. It's no surprise that Armaf made the list because it is a house that capitalizes on putting out pretty solid fragrances for under $30. In Canada, Très Nuit tends to go for about $25, and what it gives you is a pretty solid alternative to Green Irish Tweed by Creed. And that fragrance is quite literally 10 times as expensive on the gray market. Now, although Très Nuit isn't an exact replica, but when you wear it in the air around you, people will think you're wearing Green Irish Tweed or Davidoff Cool Water. Speaking of which, that's another solid cheapie that I would say ties Très Nuit on this list. Cool Water being a little more accessible, but a little less like Green Irish Tweed. Although people will usually recommend this style of fragrance in the springtime, it's light enough that you can absolutely pull it off in the summertime. It still has that uplifting green quality that does work well in the heat, and its projection isn't massive enough that the heat will make it too cloying and overpowering. It has moderate performance, but for the price, it is a very, very solid fragrance. In fact, Armaf is a house you should really check out if you're looking for affordable fragrances. Although Très Nuit is no longer my favorite Green Irish Tweed clone, it's definitely the most cost-effective. My next summer cheapie is Versace Pour Homme. This happens to be one of my first designer fragrances that I ever purchased. Even though Versace Pour Homme can easily be someone's signature scent, its note composition lends itself to summer. A lot of citrus with lemon and bergamot and neroli, and it became my gym scent for a while because anytime I was being physically active and sweating, it just helped me not smell like a garbage truck. If you do look at the note breakdown, you may notice that tonka bean is in it. I don't get a ton of that. In fact, I get it a lot more in Allure Homme Sport, which is a fragrance that smells very similar to it, but is a lot more expensive. Versace Pour Homme still remains the better value pick, so if you're looking for a fragrance that is cost-effective and smells like a much more expensive Chanel fragrance, then Versace Pour Homme is a clear choice that I would recommend to you guys. And now for a serious case of deja vu, we have Versace Man Eau Fraîche. Now this Versace takes it to the next level when it comes to summer perfumery. Instead of relying on florals, Versace Man Eau Fraîche goes really, really hard with the citrus. Not only do you have your usual suspects of lemon and bergamot, but there is also an added fruitiness with starfruit, a note that you don't really get in fragrances, but what it does is it softens the tardiness of the heavy citruses. So what you're left with is a fragrance that not only smells fresh, zesty, and vibrant, but appealing and attractive and compliment getting as well. Although at the base there is some spicy woodiness that does amp up the masculinity of the fragrance, it's still a citrus dominated fragrance, so you won't get amazing performance with it. It's actually a tad worse than Versace Pour Homme's performance on my skin, but if you apply this fragrance heavy enough, it should last you the entire day, at least the day, and then in the evening you can wear a different fragrance, which I often do. Versace Man Eau Fraîche is one of the few fragrances that really outsold and outlasted the original fragrance. Versace Man was a tobacco-based fragrance that I do enjoy, but not a lot of other people did. At least enough to justify keep selling it. But Versace Man Eau Fraîche still to this day just keeps on selling because it's really a solid choice in the summertime, and you can find it pretty cheaply on websites like Fragrance Buy. If you're on the fence about this one and you like citrus fragrances, I say go for it, guys. Just YOLO. Don't always blind buy, but this one you can probably blind buy. Just missing the top spot is a classic. This is a fragrance that you will already know if you're part of the fragrance community. It's one that I will consistently have in my collection because it's really good, and it just does the job at such a good price. At number 2, we have our Moth Club de Nuit Intense Man. Now, I don't care what batch you have, whether it's the black stem, silver atomizer, silver button badge on the front. I've owned 3 bottles of this stuff separated by a year and a half each time, and it's performed the same every single time. Club de Nuit Intense Man is a pretty solid alternative to Creed Aventus, but it's not as close as some of the other more expensive Creed clones out there. What it does is it's a little harsher, a little darker, and that translates to being a little more masculine and a little more aggressive, which I do like sometimes. I like to get aggressive. Weird. Some people aren't a fan of the harsh opening, but a lot of fragrances that do have harsh openings usually perform pretty well, and Club de Nuit Intense Man is no exception. Excellent longevity, very strong projection. I will still get compliments from people 6 feet away, and that's like 4 hours after applying it. Really good stuff. And the price is unbeatable. The only reason it's not on the top spot is because it is pretty harsh, and I would say its optimal usage is in summer evenings or cooler summer days, but this is a fragrance you can wear year-round. I wear this when it's below freezing outside, and it still performs so well. So if you're looking for a solid fragrance on a budget, this is one you can't ignore. And even if you have tons of niche fragrances, I mean, it's one that I still enjoy wearing, so you should check it out too. You should check it out too. Why did my voice go so high? Now, my number 1 cheap summer fragrance is from a house that I'm particularly fond of, not just because they make really awesome fragrances for very little money, but they also make very good clothes. In fact, my entire outfit right now is from this designer, and although there are dozens of potential candidates that I could have put on this list, I chose my current favorite from the entire house that is well worth your money this summer. If you look at the notes of this fragrance, it doesn't seem all that summery except for bergamot, but I will guarantee you that once you smell this fragrance, you will like it, you will wear it, and you'll also stand out a bit too. Now, this particular designer house makes a lot of fragrances. They don't all have the best performance, but they're all pretty good quality and extremely good value for money. Fortunately, this is one of the better performing fragrances from this house, especially considering how wearable it is in the summertime. Some people say it smells like Valentino Uomo. Others say it smells a bit more like Dior Homme. I personally think it's a little bit closer to the original Dior Homme cologne, which made an appearance on my designer list, which you can check out up top. My number 1 affordable summer fragrance for men is from the House of Zara, and it's none other than Zara 9.0. You can find this at any Zara store for $25 and under. Now, if you want to see my top 10 designer summer fragrances, you can click that box here. I did make a list of it already. At the end of the day, all this is just my opinion, and you should get your own.